Tulasi Devaki, Bhakti Devaki, Samadeva Bhaktivinda Ki, Lord Chaitanya Srirama Sankirtan, Brihat Madanga Ki, Shri Prabhupada Ki, Shri Nitai Sachi Sutta Ki, Shri Jagat Baladev Shavadra Ki, Shri Shivada Parasishwara Ki, Go Premanandi, all glorious to be assembled, devotees. Pardon? All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauramani Gacharine Namaste Shri Srinivadi Pastor. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Suresh Prabhu, what's your schedule? I thought you were leaving this morning, then I heard you change your schedule.
Even I don't know completely, but they changed the last
They
night.
just abandoned you.
Yeah.
They had enough of you, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not surprising. So I think we're supposed to leave Monday now.
And where's Abadut? Is he here?
That I don't know. I'm gonna go check for him real quick. So
He's still here, is he?
I think he was catching up on rounds because he cooked in the morning. So
He cooked today, did he?
yeah, he cooked their travel prashadam.
Oh, he was good for the
So
food.
I'll go see if he has some.
I'm sure he's capable of sorting. No problem. You don't need to worry. I was just inquisitive as to your. You don't know how long you're staying.
I think it's Monday because we're gonna go to this farming convention in Bangladesh.
Have you been to Radhadesh? Oh, nice. farming convention. Good. And Hare Krishna. Yes, today was a good start, a good experiment. We were a little apprehensive about how they would do. They did very well, really. They did about over 30 packs as well. 2 Sapta Rishi packs and about at least 30 Pancha packs. So not bad. Yeah. See what today brings us. Abhimanyu's gone, huh? Yeah. Enthusiastic, amazing. You also don't speak French, do you? You manage without French. You just spoke English.
Yeah.
Pretty good, huh? You just did books without speaking French. They did pretty well. So, I think Abhimanyu was the top of the local book distributors here. Suresh also wasn't much far behind. He did more than Vasananda. Let's see. The language is not all there is. Of course, you went out later, you did very well too. They did well in Stalingrad. Quite a lot of devotees were there in Stalingrad. Quite a few distributing books. Huh?
Yeah. We finished, we didn't take enough.
Didn't take enough? Oh no. What to do? So today, well done everybody. I don't know. Krishna, even those who just helped or it's nice working together to distribute Prabhupada's books and chant the holy names. So today it looks like we're reading text 2, is that right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shri Baliruvacha.
Shri Baliruvacha.
Satyam
Satyam
Bhagavata Proktam Dharmoyam Griha Medinam Anartham Kamam Yasho Vriting Yo No Madhita Karichit Shri Baliruvacha
Shri Baliruvacha.
Satyam Bhagavata Proktam Dharmoyam Griha Medinam Artam Kamam Yashovritim Yona Bhade Takarhichit Shri Baliruvacha Satyam Bhagavata Proktam Dharmoyam Griha Medinam Artam Kamam Yashovritim Yona Bhade Takarhichit
Shri Baliruvacha. Satyam Bhagavata Proktam Dharmoyam Griha Medinam Artam Kamam Yashovritim Yona Badeta Karichi.
Yona Badeta Karhichit.
Shri Bali Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavatam.
Satyam Bhagavata Proktam.
Satyam Bhagavata Proktam.
Dharmoyam Griyamedinam.
Dharmoyam Griyamedinam.
Artam Kamam Yasho Vrittim.
Artham Kamam Yashokritim.
Yona Badita Karichi.
Yona Badeta Karhichit.
Shri Baliruvacha.
Shri Bhagavatam.
Satyam Bhagavata Proktam.
Satyam Bhagavata Proktam.
Dharmoyam Griham
Dharmoyam Griyamedinam.
Artham Kamam Yashovritim.
Artham Kamam Yashokritim.
Yona Badeta Karhichit.
Yona Badeta Karhichit.
Shri Bali Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavatam.
Bali Maharaj said,
Bali Maharaj said,
Satyam,
Satyam.
it is truth.
It is true.
Bhagavata,
Bhagavata.
by your greatness.
By your greatness.
Proktam,
Proktam.
what has already been spoken.
Has already been spoken.
Dharmaha,
Dharma.
a religious principle.
A religious principle.
Ayam,
I am.
that is,
That is,
Griyamedinam,
Griham.
especially for the householders.
Especially for the household.
Artam,
Artham.
economic development. Kamam,
Kamam.
sense gratification.
Sense gratification.
Yashahavritim,
Yashashratim.
reputation,
Reputation.
and means of livelihood. Yaha,
Yeah.
which religious principle?
Which religious principle?
No,
No.
not.
Not.
Adheta,
Badeta.
hinders,
Hindus.
kahichit,
Religious.
at any time.
At any time.
Hare Krishna, Rasa Leela, Hare Bo, nice to see you. Rasa Leela is leaving for Armenia, is that right? Oh, when?
Sunday.
On Sunday, going to Armenia. From Armenia. Krishna consciousness movement in Russia, as you may know, many of the early devotees were from Armenia. In those days it was part of the greater bloc, Soviet bloc. Now it's independent of this country. Many devotees came from there. Very special arrangement of the Lord. And even now, we are fortunate that here in Paris, we have devotees like Rasalila and her husband have been preaching here in Paris for many decades. Even our temple president here, he's a working man. Some of you not even know who he is, probably. Jiva Pran Prabhu came through their preaching. And also others too. Many. So, this is Bali Maharaj speaking here. We didn't quite finish the word for word, did we? Did we? Finish the word for word or not? Come on. Who was anyone more attentive than me?
Yes, you finished.
You finished it? I think we only got two. I'll just read the last few words. Yaha,
Yaha.
which religious principle?
Which religious principle?
No,
No.
not.
No.
Badheta,
Badheta.
hinders,
Hinders.
kahichit,
Kahichit.
at any time.
At any time.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Bali Maharaj said, he's talking, of course, to his spiritual master, Shukracharya. As you have already stated, he says, the principle of religion that does not hinder one's economic development, sense gratification, fame, and means of livelihood is the real occupational duty of the householder. I also think that this religious principle is correct. Very thoughtful answer. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada comments, Bali Maharaj's grave answer to Shukracharya is meaningful. Shukracharya stressed that one's material means of livelihood and one's material reputation, sense gratification, and economic development. Jai Shri Jai Jai must continue properly. You have to listen very carefully here. One's material means of livelihood, one's material reputation, sense gratification, and economic development must continue properly. To see to this is the first duty of a man who is a householder. Especially one who is interested in material affairs. If a religious principle does not affect one's material condition, it is to be accepted when it says, the Prabhupada says, affect, impair or disturb. Religious principles can be quite complicated, but they're there to help enhance the living entity's progress, not just materially, but spiritually. So there will be different details in religious principles for souls in different conditions to help them to progress, not simply to maintain their condition, but to progress to a more mature state of consciousness. And of course, for most people, materialistically speaking, they have to go through that system and accept those religious principles which are favorable. And sometimes reject those which are unfavorable, though most people do not have the right means of discrimination. At the present time in the age of Kali, this idea is extremely prominent. Generally because it's without any guidance or without any understanding of the real purpose behind religious principles, the purpose behind varnashram, the purpose behind any system of organization, even the materialistic one. They have very little idea, if any, of what's the real purpose behind it. And one of the reasons that Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken as it is because of this shortcoming. Even in the writings of the Vedas, it's not clarified sufficiently as to this ultimate purpose of life. So Prabhupada goes on. A devotee, Shukracharya, sentence here. No one is prepared to accept any religious principles, if it hampers material prosperity, generally people choose. They may be born in a situation, it's like for lifetimes maybe it's conditioning, but they accept and they stay for various reasons. But otherwise people will choose, so they don't likely change what's supposed to be the direction of the scriptures sometimes. They change their identity, religiously speaking, sometimes. Common thing, they change the philosophy or the underlying teaching sometimes to facilitate their own sensual desires, their own hopes, interpretations, and so on. It's Prabhupada says here, it's very common in Kali Yuga. They won't accept it otherwise. Whether it's reincarnation or refraining from meat eating, illicit sex, performing a certain austerities. We don't want to surrender, as conditioned souls know. Who wants to surrender? Everybody likes to themselves be the enjoyer. The religious principles are there to at least help us on the path of surrender. They may not be transcendental in some way, but they are coming from God. Dharma Pishaksha Bhagavatam, meant for Haritoshanam. Some said here Haritoshanam, ultimately they're meant pleasing the Lord. So if one changes, even though the instructions may be very basic, simple, moralistic in some ways, dutiful, responsibility, even if one is very materially attached, there are directions there given ultimately by the Lord in order to regulate those sensual desires or economic aspirations. There are regulations there given in Scripture. So by following those, it may take time, of course, but it gradually is meant to help free the living entity from these entanglement in economic development, sense gratification, and mundane religion. And release the living entity. Liberation ultimately is understood differently, but the principle is there to free the living entity from this entanglement. It's not meant to facilitate one's pleasure within the material entanglement any more than a prisoner. The real point is to become released from the prison, but not simply to make the prisoner comfortable, or to make the toilet, like Siddhanta Maharaj, Prabhupada repeats the same thing. Don't try to make the toilet a comfortable place. They call it comfort room in America sometimes, isn't it?
Restroom.
American.
Restroom.
Represented. No, I've seen comfort room also. Rest room, convenience room, comfort room. Various terms are used to describe the toilet, where you pass stool and urine, vomit, whatever else we do there. It's not meant for them. Do your business and get out. People who are very attached. At least there are codes in the toilet. You see some codes there. What is it? When you pee or something, you see these little signs up there. Don't pee on the pan, or whatever it is. Clean up after you. Don't throw this down the pan. Flush afterwards. Little different instructions are there within the toilet even. And they're meant to, on the spot, purpose as well. But they're meant to, for the benefit, they're meant to ultimately benefit those who are using the toilet. The material world is many factors involved, but it's actually Siddhartha Maharaj described it like that. It's like a toilet, you do your business and you get out. So there are certain rules and codes, and if we follow those codes, then slowly or fastly or quickly one can progress out of this entanglement, material entanglement, where material desires, we're eagerly looking to fulfill them through religion. But ultimately religion is meant to regulate them so they're not out of control, and ultimately free them, become free of this intention. As we heard the other day from Dhruva Maharaj, approached the Lord full of material desire, but eventually, as he followed the path, the process given to him, he became free of those material desires. So that's the higher purpose, not just to facilitate. But at a certain stage here, for those who are still materialistic, especially those who are householders, there are religious principles which are required to sustain, maintain one's family, one's position in society, whether one's a grihastha or whatever order of life is. There are certain directives there, and they're not necessarily all transcendental. But they're coming from God, and thus by abiding by those there's a degree of surrender, because we're surrendering to His direction. And that is a step in the right direction. Same thing from the Varnas, whether it's a Brahmin, there are directions. There are different directions for Kshatriyas and for Vaishyas and Shudras and the outcasts, the Antijas. There's different directions for everyone to help them progress. And it won't be the same. And those who are actually mature, they will understand that. They'll encourage people to follow those religious principles which are relevant to their situation. And those principles which will help to elevate them to a higher situation. So Bali Maharaj has to consider his spiritual master has given him some, you could say, more than advice. Well, not exactly an order, but almost something in between. Appealing to Bali Maharaj, reconsider what you've just done. You promised this cheat charity, but I can warn you, this is very dangerous. Don't give it to the Hare Krishnas. You'll lose everything. You'll lose everything if you give to them. You'll see. Don't give this Hare Krishna welfare. It will be detrimental in every respect to you and your family and society. So Bali Maharaj now is faced with a big dilemma. Imagine his guru, at least his Kula Guru, is advising him, don't do it. And now he's promised already, and many other factors which he took into account before he makes his decision. But first you can see he's not directly saying no, either to the promise or to his spiritual master. He's thinking very carefully, weighing the whole situation up carefully. Now he's addressing his spiritual master in many ways, respectfully. He's saying, yes, what you've said is correct. But there are higher principles which Sukracharya does not consider. Bali Maharaj will take those into account in his decision making. He's very intelligent. And what is really favorable for us and what is unfavorable. Prabhupada now will mention this. A devotee is determined to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his full satisfaction. We've mentioned this now. Tangsit here Hari Toshna. This is the purpose. Tapumbir Dvija Shrestha Varna Ashram Vibhava. The purpose of Varna Ashram is Tangsit here Hari Toshna. Not just to facilitate our perverse desires, our karmas, but it's also is wholly and solely ultimately meant for the pleasure of the Lord. Otherwise, from a Vikevam, described Brahmins for this Tapumsham Vishwaksenakdasimapadi from a waste of time. Waste of time, as Narada Muni told Vyasadeva, because you misled people in the name of the Vedas. They will be inclined towards material sense gratification of various kinds. You're encouraging them. Yehi samspashaja bhoga dukkha yoni evate. This sense gratification, and we all know it. Even sometimes we experience that in our neophyte stage in devotional service. We expose ourselves to something not pleasing to Krishna ultimately. Maybe for some at certain stages it's acceptable in a proper way. But on the path of devotional service it may be different. That will again depend on the individual's progress in spiritual life. What is one man's meat, is another man's poison. So what's relevant for one at a certain stage is not relevant at another stage. These are details. The general principle is to follow the order of Krishna, whatever it may be, according to time, place, and circumstance. The order may vary, but to follow it, to know what is relevant to us, that is favorable. It's like the same thing if a person is physically ill. It's not a one medicine for everyone. Physician has to see the condition of the patient, prescribe accordingly. It will vary, even with the same disease sometimes, because other factors have to be taken into account. The general health of the patient, any allergies they have, so on, whatever. Age of the patient, the blood type, many things may have to be taken into account before prescription is given. Patient has to take those prescriptions, and maybe when he gets healthier the prescription will change a little bit. Eventually he may not need to take any medicines. But in the stage of recovery, there are different directives, and also in the lifestyle different directives are there which may change as one's health returns. Similarly for the conditioned soul, as they progress, then the same rules at one stage may not be the rules at a more mature stage. But the principle is one, ultimately one, to please the Supreme Personality of God. Whether on the material platform or the spiritual platform or something in between. Prabhupada goes on to say, a devotee is determined to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his full satisfaction. It means the Lord's full satisfaction. Anything that hampers such determination should certainly be rejected. We all know how we feel sometimes when you dabble in something or mind wanders into another world somewhere and it's not favorable. And then you feel somewhat, it says here rejected, and if you don't, it's not reject, it's deject. You feel a little dejected. This is the principle of bhakti. One of the principles, or two of the principles of surrender, anukul and pratikul. That which is favorable and that which is unfavorable. Anukul. And that verse is then quoted. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If someone would look it up or bring a book or something, someone can read the verse. It's in Madhya Lila, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter number 22, text number 100. Madhya Lila. Look it up. You are very good. Thank you very much. Gangeya Prabhu, read it loud and clear.
Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishya atiti vishvaso goptritve varanam tatha atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidha sharanagati. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender and humility.
Wonderful. So if you have time today, you can study that verse. These are instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, probably to Sanatana Goswami. There's Rupa Goswami's Siksha and Sanatana Siksha, but I think, I may be wrong, but I think that Siksha is given to Sanatana. Important verse. The symptoms of surrender. And again, basically the same principle applies at all levels of spiritual progress. Humility, for instance, would mean accepting the instruction of Shastra and interpreting it. We accept it. We may not be able to follow, but we accept it. And don't try to adjust it to our own limitations, our own selfish desires. And then we accept the practice, the process which is relevant to our fallen condition to gradually come to that level. Devotional service, that same principle is expected in terms of humility, following the relevant directions for one's adhikar or level of maturity, that which is favorable. To accept that, the humility is basically the key feature in surrender. Material, so people would probably see the connection between the two to some degree. And taking shelter of Krishna, we're taking shelter of his instructions. And we're accepting those instructions which are relevant to us. We should be proud and try to imitate others, or duplicitous, putting on a false show. And one who accepts that, whatever stage they're on, will get the Lord's mercy and expect it, because as they surrender unto me, Krishna says, I reward them accordingly. According to our level, Krishna will reward. But what his reward is may not always be, like a child sometimes. A young child, spoiled, wants this, wants that. Parents may not always give this and that. They know something more beneficial for living entity. for his son or daughter. Something more beneficial for them. They may regulate it. We see, okay, you can have a sweet, but only once a day. You can watch TV. You not, of course they do. 1 hour a day, not more. They put some regulations on many things. Their purpose is material, but still the principle is the same. To regulate the child's sensual desires. For the sake of the benefit, that's meant to do for the benefit of the child. But certainly on the spiritual path, or any religious path, is meant there too. Whether it's a fasting day, just like in Christianity on Friday is still there. No meat on Friday. That used to be the standard when I was a kid. I don't know if it still is. We were not a religious family. But it was a custom not to eat meat on Friday. Fish, yes, but not meat. And in Islam, of course, they have the Ramadan, fasting month, all there to help control our senses, restrict our senses, and abide by the directive of Scripture. Whether that's what it says, I don't know, but that's the idea anyway. Prayers at a certain time of the day, regulating one's life, and so on. Performing various acts of charity. Material they may be, but it's according to the direction. Krishna says to Arjuna, don't disturb them, even though their acts may be material, but try to engage them in acts of devotion whenever the chance is there. So within society, it's not all about just making the prison a good place. It's also, there will be opportunities for all to make spiritual progress, genuine spiritual progress, by coming into contact somewhere along the line with bhakti, with devotion. It's a mixed form of devotion. Religiosity is mundane, mostly materialistic. It comes from Krishna and it's given by Krishna's representatives, so therefore it is connected to bhakti. But more direct bhakti is also there. There will be opportunities for prasadam and kirtan sessions and so on amongst all members of society. And the Brahmins are supposed to share whatever is relevant with the others. Surrender to hear. So in our case, that hearing you could say is, and following is much more directly related to bhakti. To perform devotional service, one must accept only that which is favorable, and that reject that which is unfavorable. There's many such stages and many such directives in the beginning stage. Go way back in the beginning, but those who are actually want to be established on the path, for instance, unfavorable would be to look at it in many ways, but to take intoxication. But there may be some cases where that is required also, health reasons. But generally, we avoid intoxications of all kinds. Meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and so on. These things may need a little more extensive description, but in principle they're to be rejected. And that which is favorable, the association, very favorable, association of devotees, lifestyle, offering devotion, offering one's food to Krishna. It's not favorable, even if it's vegetarian, not to offer it to Krishna. It's favorable to offer it to Krishna. And how we offer it, different levels, with an attitude, favorable attitude. And many unfavorable, favorable in the form of association, in the form of habits, in the form of what we speak, where we sleep, how we sleep. All these things are taken into account. Bathing, how we bathe, every stage you'll see these principles of surrender are there, and they won't be the same at different stages externally. Principles are the same. Just like in school, a primary school, a junior school, a high school, a college education, and so on. They all have the same principle, they're based on the same authority. But obviously they appear different at different stages of one's growth. So the expert knows that. They don't just keep people stuck at a certain level of primary school education. They're meant to take us to higher levels. Religiosity is also meant for that, although it appears to be mainly kind of saying rather dogmatic maybe, or rather limiting in some ways. It's not meant to be. It's meant to help us to realize our relationship with God. Who is God? Who are we? And so on. But Krishna says, give up all these, you could say, materially motivated, even religion, which is materially motivated, give it all up. Give up even varnashram. It doesn't mean we give it up externally, but one gives up one's dependence upon these things, or one's addiction to the various stages of growth, one's pride which may come by being established in a situation which makes one feel important in terms of the system one's in. We have to rise above all these various kinds of attachments. Surrender fully, not just partially, but fully to the will of the Lord. Completely taking shelter of the Lord. The stage of pure devotion. Bali Maharaj had the opportunity to contribute everything he possessed to the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev. But Shukracharya was putting forward a material argument to hamper this process of devotional service. Under the circumstances, Bali Maharaj decided that such hindrances should certainly be avoided. All the time mind comes up with these hindrances, maybe family members or people in general, sometimes devotees, which kinds may try to put some hindrances on your surrender. Rationalizing them from scripture injunction, just like if we read this out of context, it appears here Bali Maharaj is saying that this is the priority. We have to follow this principle always. And in one sense we could say it's true that we understand it, but from a material point of view, it sounds like he's just saying the goal of life is just to, make happy family. Happy family is the goal of life. God is there to make your family happy. Religious principles are only for that purpose. Sounds like we take it out of context, which is usually the case. People take out of context some statement Prabhupada made here or written there, not understanding the whole purpose. Unfortunately, without proper guidance. Bali Maharaj decided that such hindrances should be avoided. In other words, he decided immediately to reject the advice of Shukracharya and go on with his duty. Thus he gave all his possessions to Lord Vamanadev. So Prabhupada here is obviously moving forward in what's happening. Just to let us know that we're not left on the hook wondering what's going on here. Shukracharya is saying something, it looks like Bali Maharaj is agreeing with him. So it looks like the end of the whole pastime. There will be no Atmanivedam here. It's going to be Shukracharya wins again. For demonic persons, yes, they would be happy with that. But Bali Maharaj is not. He's intelligent. Although his intelligence is also diplomatic, because he's not directly sort of attacking the arguments of his Guru Maharaj went through. He's not directly attacking them. He's taking it on board. You take it in and then you present. You don't directly affront. It's a clever approach of Bhagavad. To say what he wants to say, maybe in a more palatable way. Satyam Bruya, Satyam Priyam, whatever. Satyam Bruya, whatever. To tell the truth to them, if you can, that is. Truth has to be Satyam Priyam. It has to be pleasingly told also. Sometimes it's not possible for obvious reasons, but in general, as much as possible, when we're trying to instruct, it should be palatable, according to the capacity of the receiver. Otherwise they may vomit or reject it. Please be presented. That takes intelligence to understand, as a physician, to understand the condition of the patient before giving prescription. If it's a child, you have to sugarcoat the medicine. Sugarcoat it. Otherwise the child will reject it. Bitter. Little knowledge, a little bit of realization is required here. In terms of giving direction, anyway. There's a very interesting dilemma which all living beings are faced with at some point of time, at every moment, in fact, but we don't recognize it. And devotees, aspiring devotees, we have to also not act necessarily rashly, but with thought, with care, before making such critical decisions as Baliram is faced with. Weighing up the situation, what is really favorable, what is really unfavorable, what is really for the benefit of my family and myself and everyone else. Not just materially, but absolutely. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Any questions? Gangaya Prabhu.
Class Maharaj. There's only 6 different items of surrender in the verse that we read. There are 2 items that I struggle to understand the difference. The first one is accepting Krishna as our protector, and the other one is accepting Krishna as our guardian or master. What is the difference?
They're worded differently in different places. What does protection mean? It will vary. For most people, material protection means physical protection or maintenance of one's situation, subtly or grossly. But for the devotee particularly, what does protection mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be protected? Krishna's protecting you. What does it mean?
It means to really protect our spiritual life, our spiritual
life. So how that works, it's actually mercy. And oftentimes it's worded expecting Krishna's mercy. And that mercy is, in a sense, is real protection, not just physical protection. It certainly is. And it could be interchangeable. You could interpret these two either way. But one is that we accept that everything is depending on the Lord. Absolutely. Everything depends on the Lord. And not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord, as he said. Everything depends upon the Lord. And the devotee accepts. He accepts that principle. Whatever you want to do, my Lord. The devotee accepts it. It's not theoretical, but he actually accepts. easy to say, the Lord is my guardian, He is my protector, and so on. But to actually understand that, and to understand how that works, that His mercy is to take away all other forms of shelter. So they can be very closely interknitted, interlocked in that sense, in terms of seeing the other one in each of them, in each other. But it's a matter of, you could say, again, for a materialistic person, his mercy will come in the form of, providing, materially speaking, whatever, some material provision. For others, it will be releasing one from material provision. From another, it will be delivering one from birth and death, freeing one from karma. For another, it will be awakening within us, removing all the anarchas, and awakening, actually, as the anarchas removed. Then, in principle, of course, if we're trying to be devotee, then our attraction towards the Lord will start to awaken, start to evolve, and the heart becomes cleansed. It's Krishna's mercy, seeing the intent, our attitude. Mercy. All people in the religious path, to some degree, may accept God. He is my protector, as we see in the Bible, guide and protector. But the understanding of what it means to expect His mercy is a little bit more profound, more detailed, or not detailed, but more, say, subtle. People give up very easily if they don't get what they think is the Lord's merciful reciprocation from the devotion service. No. He already knows that whatever God does is really for your benefit, even though it may not appear to be. It may appear to be unfavorable, like a child doesn't like to be controlled sometimes. Accepting the point that we're not independent, that we're dependent on Krishna. And then accepting whatever Krishna does is right, is good. Yes. Not that I accept him as my guardian as long as he gives me what I want. That's dependence. Become fully dependent upon him. It makes any helpful sense. Any other comments on that point? Which is very easy to see how those two aspects of surrender can almost seem to be one. To some degree, they're all related. Of course, they are. A different perspective, you could say, of understanding the relationship with the Lord. Unconditional. Any comments on that? So today, some of you will be doing service here, and some of you will be going on, probably, hopefully on book distribution or Harinam or something. Krishna Kripa's not here, what are we going to do? Pardon?
You went to Radhayatra.
Well, we heard that he went to Rath Yatra. What are we going to do? If he's not here, what are we going to do? Catch up on sleep? What are we going to? He's the one who pushes us all out the door for Harinam, isn't he? He's gone. We don't know how he's gone. I'm worried about how he's gone. Where he's gone. So what we're going to do today? Are you all exhausted after yesterday? Was it too much? What about the traveling Sankirtan? What are they doing? What are you going to do? Ekanath?
Well, I will go to the garage again and hopefully they will repair the van.
We have to
today.
fix the van, is it?
Yeah,
It's got to be fixed, whether you travel or don't travel. It's got to be fixed.
yeah.
Don't procrastinate. Don't spend all day trying to get 50 euros off the bill,
Mm.
and then you have to wait till Wednesday next week. Talk to those who make decisions, which I hope we managed to do, and then make the decision that it's got to be done quick. If you're going to travel, bear in mind the costs involved. They're all over. Today, I guess you're not going to be traveling, right? Those who wanted to travel. So what, you're going to go out in Paris or what? Is that the idea?
Maybe it won't be,
Yeah, one.
I'm not gonna go because I need to.
You're
take
going to
care
be
of the
with the
van.
van all day long, see? What to do? This is one of those challenges sometimes, isn't it? We try to preach and then there's something unexpected comes up. We have to adjust and depend on Krishna. Not that we start, why are you doing this to me, Krishna? We had this plan to serve you, and why have you done this? You know? Right? Sometimes we think like that. We may not put Krishna's name there, but that's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Same thing. Well, of course we should be, then we start blaming someone else. Why didn't they fix it? Damn it! They should have fixed it before coming here. It's their fault. Why didn't they notice before? And we come up with all sorts of stuff like this, which may be true, but that's not the answer, is it? Not that we just accept any damn thing and don't care less. We should be responsible. Look after, if we realize that everything belongs to Krishna, that's the problem. We think it doesn't belong to me, therefore it's not my responsibility, is it? Someone else's responsibility. Maybe it is by, so you could say, managerial arrangements, but still, if you see some garbage on the floor, you say, well, it's not my business to pick it up, but is it or isn't it? Depends how we see it in relation with Krishna or not. If we see something amiss, then we should, which is favorable. There seems to be some strange sound coming from the car. Maybe it should be checked out. Not just, oh, never mind, I'm only using it for today. I'm sure it will last till I get to the garage and back. The next person's problem. Eventually it becomes unusable. The responsibility is required. Otherwise we possibly, and when we haven't discussed it at all, maybe Mananda Prabhu, maybe you could drive the devotees out if they want to go somewhere else outside the city for the day. Isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, if you guys want to go to Beauvais for the day or something, which isn't far away, some of you might like to go and try another city just outside of Paris, which is difficult to get to by public transport. You know what I mean? I mean, in the city, you don't need to go by car. But if you wanted to go to a town outside, within an hour or two's drive, I'd be happy to drive. We never go to these places, right? There's another possibility. He's not running off to get the car fixed, of course he is. But you get the point. You know, sometimes you don't have to have a big van and go 500 kilometers. You can also go a little bit. Paris isn't like London. London's got at least 500 suburbs within driving distance of it. Paris has very few comparatively, but still they're there. Some suburbs. And how many times have you been to Pontoise Surgery? 30 minutes drive. 250,000 people. governmental headquarters. Of course, they may be closed. You know, the people are still there. Or Beauvais. We went to Amiens. Vasikananda, remember that? Amiens? We've gone to Amiens? Amiens? That great place for Sangha. And you went with Rivatinanda, I remember. About 5 or 6 years ago. 4 of you went. It was a great place. Maybe you were there. You were there too. I remember you went to the police station to try to get permission, spent the whole day there. But in 1 hour you just do like 10 Bhagavad Gitas or something. Yeah, great place. But the authorities are a little strict. You care. There's ways around it. There's other ways. Any place is not too far from where we are here. Hare Krishna.
Very good.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Dinesh Sarananda Maharaj ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.